By the way, I forgot to mention something earlier about 9/11. Um, the smoking gun is Building 7, which is the third tower that fell at free fall speed, like I mentioned earlier. It actually fell at about 5.5 seconds. And you can see this on YouTube. There's a ton of clips of it. I mean, and it's featured in many 9/11 documentaries too. Um, this was a 47-story building made of steel, made of the finest materials, and it mostly housed government offices. So it was basically a government building made of the finest steel and materials. Yet it collapsed at the rate of free fall at about 5.5 seconds. Some might say 6 seconds, but either way, that's almost at the rate of free fall, which means that there was zero resistance. And like I mentioned earlier, a building, especially a skyscraper, cannot have zero resistance. Otherwise, it would fall. If buildings were like that, the roof above my head would collapse on me right now. But it doesn't, because buildings have resistance holding it up, and a lot of resistance too, strong resistance. So Building 7 was the smoking gun because what was special about it was that it was not hit by a plane. Okay, it was not hit by any plane. Okay, the two planes hit the Twin Towers. Okay, and one crashed in Shanksville and one crashed into the Pentagon. Allegedly, of course, that's the official story, even though there's not much evidence for it. But anyways, no plane hit Building 7. Okay, there's no video of any plane hitting Building 7. It was not. It was not even alleged to. Okay, and yet it still collapsed at free fall speed from fire, and that is a smoking gun, because that is impossible, especially since no plane hit it. Okay, so the official story is that fire destroyed Building 7, but like I mentioned earlier, fire cannot collapse a building at the rate of free fall, especially in just a few hours. Okay, if you look at other skyscrapers around the world, this has never happened before in history, that a skyscraper has collapsed just from fire alone. In fact, after 9/11, a few years later, there was a building in China, a big skyscraper. I don't remember whether it was in Beijing or Shanghai, but this skyscraper was on fire for like 20 hours, and it still did not collapse. Okay, and there was also a skyscraper in Madrid, Spain, that was also on fire for a long time, and it also did not collapse too. It was put out after a while. I don't know when the Madrid fire was. I think it was a few years after 9/11, or maybe a few years before. I don't recall exactly, but you can look at this up. I mean, other skyscrapers and tall buildings that are on fire never collapse like that at the rate of free fall. And Richard Gage of the Architects and Engineers of 9/11 Truth, who's a professional architect, he made a good point in that he said that if a skyscraper were to deteriorate from fire, okay, I mean, if a skyscraper, okay, was on fire for a really long time and it started to deteriorate and collapse, okay, it would not collapse straight down. Okay, it would, into its own footprint, into the path of greatest resistance. Okay, more often than not, it would topple over. Okay, the pieces would start to come down like this. I mean, it would start to fall off sideways. Okay, because that's the path of least resistance. Okay, so when things fall, okay, they go to the path of least resistance, not the path of greatest resistance. Okay, so that's a key point. Okay, I'm just saying that theoretically, if a building were on fire for many days, for example, and it was starting to collapse, especially a steel skyscraper, it would start to collapse like this, sideways, into the path of least resistance, not the path of greatest resistance, which is straight down into the structure itself, which has a lot of weight. And like I mentioned earlier, the Twin Towers each weighed about 500,000 tons. And that's a lot of weight. You can look this up on Wikipedia. It's documented. It's official. So yeah, I mean, this was the smoking gun, and I mean, it's called the smoking gun in the 9/11 truth movement, the collapse of Building 7, and this is really important because I forgot to mention that this earlier when I was doing this video about 9/11 truth. So yeah, look it up and research it, and you'll see that this is irrefutable. The skeptics cannot explain that. No skeptic or debunker of conspiracies can explain the collapse of Building 7 that fast, because there's no way fire could do that. Like I said, you have to destroy the infrastructure below, the under infrastructure. Either the basement or the first floor has to be destroyed. The columns have to be cut and detonated first to collapse the rest. Okay, so yeah, I posted. I'm gonna post some links for you to click on below to the website I recommended, the Architects and Engineers for 9/11 Truth, and also some names of documentaries you should see. Besides the two documentaries produced by AE 9/11 Truth, there's also one that I really like personally. It was made in Italy, and it has a very nice ebb and flow, and it's very intimate and well done. It makes you, I mean, it's a little bit artistic in that it makes you feel the points and the testimonies and the arguments. So not only is it very credible and scientific and very logically based, but it makes you feel the emotions of the people being interviewed, the testimonies. Okay, and that film is called Zero, an investigation into 9/11. It's called Zero, an investigation into 9/11, and that's been on YouTube for a long time. So you can just search that on YouTube, and you'll find it. There's multiple copies of it. It's about 2 hours, and it's one of the best documentaries I've ever seen, and I think it's probably the best 9/11 documentary because it's just powerful. It makes you feel every point. Okay. And it was made in Italy by a good director. It was made back in 2008, I think. In fact, I think you can find it just by typing Zero, Zero, and then 9/11, 9/11. I mean, you could probably find it that way too. But it's a really good film. I strongly recommend that you see that if you haven't. In addition to the two documentaries by AE 9/11 Truth, which are 9/11 Blueprint for Truth and 9/11 Explosive Evidence, Experts Speak Out. That's the second documentary featuring all those professional engineers and architects, about 50 of them, I think. So yeah, those are very convincing and irrefutable and very rock solid. I mean, no one can really deny it, okay, unless they have an agenda to debunk anything that doesn't fit the official story. Okay, unless they're a propagandist, I mean. Okay, so check those out, and especially check out the collapse of Building 7. Like I said, this is the smoking gun, and it's irrefutable. It makes the conspiracy or the partial inside job, it makes it an absolute certainty. Okay, there's no way around it. Okay, this makes the conspiracy an absolute certainty, and it means that it must have at least partially been an inside job, even if the terrorists and the hijackers on the plane did exist. Okay, it was at least the very least partially an inside job, and there's no escape from that. Okay, absolutely no escape. You cannot deny this logically unless you have an emotional bias or a knee-jerk reaction to deny this, and you know, because people can't accept it. Because it's a disturbing truth, so a lot of people can't accept it, even though logically they know it's true and it must be. Okay, but the fact is the fact. It's irrefutable. Just look at the evidence I told you. There's a lot of evidence for 9/11 truth of it being an inside job, but you know, I'm just giving you the strongest arguments for now. Okay. because I don't have time to go into all the arguments. There's a lot of them. So I'm just giving you the strongest core arguments for you to research later. And I've also written a very big article about 3 American conspiracies, okay? And one of the 3 is 9/11 truth. The other 2, I'll leave it as a surprise to you to get you to click on my link, because I'm going to put the link to that paper that I wrote in the description box below. It's called my Conspiracy Trilogy Report, okay? And because it covers 3 big American conspiracies. And it's not on happierabroad.com. It's on another website that I own too, a smaller website. And it's also really good because I list a lot of evidence and proofs for each of the 3 conspiracies. And you know, I try my best to summarize these proofs and get right to the point, so I don't beat around the bush like some people do. You know, some people just, you know, to get to one main point, they beat around the bush for 30 minutes before getting to the main point. And I don't like to do that because I don't like to waste your time, and I don't like anyone wasting my time. I like to just get to the point, to the main point right away. And, you know, that's my style, okay? So with me, there's no bull, there's no beating around the bush, okay? There's no empty filler, okay? I get right to the point. So if you read my Conspiracy Trilogy Report that I'm going to link below, okay, you'll see a lot of proofs for 9/11 truth, you know, about 30 or so, maybe a little more, okay? And in each of the proofs and arguments, I get right to the main point. I give links for more research. And, you know, these are very rock solid arguments that, you know, they're strong arguments. They're logical arguments that 9/11 was an inside job. So check out my Conspiracy Trilogy Report, in addition to the other links and the documentaries I suggested. And in my Conspiracy Report, you'll see all the rest of the arguments for 9/11 truth that, you know, I don't have time to get into right now because there's so many of them. So I just hope that this has sparked your interest if you're new to this field, and that you'll see the documentaries I recommended, see the links, and also see my Conspiracy Trilogy Report below, because it's very convincing and compelling. It's a very rock solid argument. And I encourage you to share this with other people too, who don't believe, who still believe the official story and don't believe that a conspiracy was possible, okay? There are still a lot of people out there that like that. They're just in denial. They cannot accept such a disturbing truth. So I encourage you to share them too. Okay, so thanks for watching, and I just had to add this in because I forgot to earlier, so sorry. I had to come back again to make an addendum after I already said goodbye on this video, but I thought this was an important point to make. Okay, take care, have a great day. Talk to you next time. Bye-bye.